Dr. Pranathi Reddy is the clinical director of obstetrics and fetal medicine at the Rainbow Hospital Group and a subspecialist urogynecologist and has 35 years of clinical experience. She has trained in the UK and USA and after returning to India has not only established a successful clinical journey but has embarked on an entrepreneurial journey where she was pivotal in guiding the women's division of Rainbow from an excellent clinical facility to a successful publicly traded enterprise. She is passionate about the birthing process and the impact it has on a woman's life journey, both professional and personal. In addition to her busy clinical work, she plays a significant mentorship role in the Rainbow Group and is working towards setting up a structured mentorship culture within the organization. Welcome to this episode of Samvadanam. I'm incredibly excited to have Dr. Pranathi Reddy with us today. And thank you so much, Dr. Pranathi, for joining us and for actually talking about something this important and critical that is definitely not discussed enough. So thank you for joining Samvadanam.
Thank you for having me, Mridula. It's a joy to reconnect with you and to be discussing something which is, I know, so close to your heart, and it's opened up so many other vistas for me also.
Lovely. The pleasure is ours. And I'm going to jump straight into the conversation. Of course, we're going to pick your brain quite a bit here. So, as dancers, we go through our stages of life, and at most points, our journey in, say, Bharatanatyam or any other classical dance or a physical performative space is quite interrupted as we go through, say, pregnancy and childbirth and then postpartum. But I wanted to sort of talk to you about postpartum today and the recovery and health and what we really need to keep in mind because we tend to have a lot of handholding and help during pregnancy, and that itself is a large break for dancers. But postpartum is also a very, very big struggle for most women. And it's very important to understand what it means, what the challenges are, and what to do and what not to do. So I just wanted to sort of quickly ask you about a little bit about the physical recovery, right, after childbirth, and the timeline of healing. So if you could speak about that, that would really help.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not just dancers, but in general, the postpartum period is an extremely neglected period for all women. While there's so much attention during pregnancy, during the process of birth itself, by the time they have delivered, it's quite a lonely place that they find themselves in.
True.
And when we talk about postpartum recovery, I think not just for dancers, but probably specifically for dancers, I think it begins with pregnancy. And I would say even much before pregnancy. How they handle themselves in pregnancy will determine how they recover post delivery. So, whenever an event occurs in our lives, which stresses out the body and mind, be it just life transitions like puberty, pregnancy, or menopause, which are not diseases, or indeed even diseases like diabetes, hypertension, or infectious diseases like malaria or dengue, the impact they have obviously depends upon the baseline state of the body. The healthier you are, the fitter you are, the more nutritionally balanced you are, the less will be the negative impact of all these. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So, I do think dancers come from a background of physical fitness and mental fortitude. So, again, I mean, as I look at it, dance is a perfect blend of what we call the four pillars of fitness: endurance, strength, balance, and flexibility. That's a natural training process which goes into dance, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and mentally also, they have to, master this complex choreography, follow so many steps and so many routines, work in tandem with so many other performers. They need to perform under the spotlight. And this, I'm sure, helps build mental stamina also. So they are coming from a place of a good background of mental fitness and physical fitness. And what needs to happen is that I think they just need to maintain this through their pregnancy. And in terms of physical fitness, I think the postpartum recovery will be easier for women who go through a pregnancy in a very fit state. And generally, so the level of fitness obviously has to be individualized also. A lot of it
True.
depends upon their own individual problems in pregnancy and what their gynecologist says. Obviously, that is the baseline on which the advice is based. So if they have no problems, and then we encourage women to continue to do what they've been doing pre-delivery in a consistent manner for at least 4 to 6 months prior to delivery.
Ah,
And I do think dancers will come from that group, because they've been practicing regularly, they've been
true.
doing that. And so it's a form of physical fitness, actually. If you see, it's a form of physical fitness activity, like say aerobics or zumba, but comes with this excellent blend of all these four pillars. And if they've been doing it in a consistent manner, they should continue dancing through pregnancy, because that's their exercise routine, and they should continue dancing through pregnancy. And there may be balance issues as the body gets bigger, as the center of gravity shifts. When the tummy gets bigger, the center of gravity shifts. And so I'm not a dancer, so I can't comment on the intricacies of how that is going to change the practice issues. But I think, especially when we're talking of professional dancers, people who dance and, give performances, I'm sure if teachers like yourselves can carefully curate a dance fitness program through pregnancy,
Hmm.
they'll be able to safely continue doing what they love doing throughout pregnancy and keep their body in a state which is fit, so that recovery then post pregnancy becomes easier.
Easier.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the starting point of my advice to, how you can enhance postpartum recovery. You enhance postpartum recovery by presenting your pregnancy with a body and mind which are already fit and in great shape.
Very interesting. And what
So,
about the timeline of healing when we talk about, say, a vaginal birth versus a C-section? Because, that's a mix for dancers as well. So,
yes, absolutely. So obviously, somebody who's had a vaginal birth can get back to their physical activity very quickly. In fact, within days. I mean, somebody who's had a normal vaginal delivery should actually be able to get back to some basic work within a few days, even as soon as within 10 days. And that is the whole advantage of having a vaginal birth. But they also should be comfortable to do it. i
right.
i would not encourage them to rush through things. It's also a time when they should be able to sit back, relax a little bit, settle into that new phase of life, and feel mentally ready to get on with doing things. And I think they also should be prepared for the fact that they want to do these things.
Right.
They should decide well in advance. I think planning plays a big role in terms of how you're going to handle your post delivery period. So it's like anything else. So you plan better, have a plan in mind in terms of how you're going to get back to your routine. If you have a normal delivery, what is it that you're going to do when you have a C-section? So recovery, or in terms of physical activity following C-section, obviously it's going to be a little more delayed as compared to a vaginal birth. What we say can be resumed, within few short weeks following a vaginal birth, may take a little longer time in a C-section, maybe up to 4 weeks. But they should be able to do things like basic stretching,
Hmm.
breathing exercises, relaxation techniques. These are things that they can continue to practice even when they are actually physically inactive. In terms of cardio, they can actually, 3 weeks following a C-section, they can start walks, moderate to brisk pace walks. That's not going to be a hindrance at all. They shouldn't be doing anything that will, strain the lower abdomen and interfere with the healing process of the cesarean section scar. So that's going to take a little longer, but they can fill that gap with other things that, build their mental strength, build their stamina.
And that's our biggest concern. What is safe? what is not safe.
Yes.
And that confusion sort of lingers on. As dancers, when we come back, we do sometimes tend to rush into taking up, as you said, slightly severe physical exercises, thinking that, the body will be able to shed it faster or it can heal faster. But hearing what you're saying, I think it takes a little longer for the body to sort of settle down and self heal. So we need to give that little bit of time, right, for it.
Yes, absolutely. See, I think no one, it's very important. That's why I think planning for post delivery is a key thing which people tend to overlook and neglect. So suddenly they are left in this postpartum period, and I think it's a combined responsibility of allowing that planning to happen. Partners should enable that, families should enable that, caregivers should enable that, doctors should enable that. They should be talking to women about how they're going to plan their postpartum recovery. Once they have a plan in mind, then this mismatch between their expectations and what can actually happen gets bridged,
Right.
and they know for a fact what is going to happen. You see so many women, they come planning for a pregnancy. They want to know what it is to get pregnant, what is the best age to get pregnant, what is the best way to get pregnant, what test should we do. I rarely ever see anyone saying, "Hey, what's going to happen to me once I deliver?
Very
I'm
true.
in this
Very true.
new role. I'm going to be a mother, a parent, and this is a lifelong commitment. You live the bigger part of your life after your pregnancy and delivery, and
That's
the
true.
pregnancy and delivery part of it gets so much attention, and the post delivery planning is not very high. So suddenly they are left, flailing about, not knowing what to do. I think once you know what to do, and this is going to be my timeline. If I have a normal delivery, this is what I'm going to do. If I have a C-section, this is what I'm going to do. I think planning and having an anticipation of what is going to come gives much more confidence in handling that whole issue. So there's no hurry. They're more, calm about the whole post-delivery recovery.
Absolutely. And for, Bharatanatyam particularly, we have very
Mm,
physically intense,
mm,
not only postures, but also the way we perform, right? Like if you take Aramandi,
yes.
it is quite a strain, not only on your knees and legs, but just your core as well, right? We have intense footwork as well. So those are some things that I think we might not be absolutely aware of when we are sort of bouncing back from a very large event in our life. So if there is something that you can, shed light upon on that as well.
Yeah. So really, I mean, I can't overemphasize this, that core strength is really the most important thing that people should work on post delivery. So, the weight loss, getting the flat tummy, all these are things that will happen because people are so focused on them. People forget that you need to build your core strength, which is your
Right.
lower back, your pelvic floor, your lower abdomen. And this needs a completely different type of focus. In a way, your Bharatanatyam itself, I think, works a lot on core strength.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're practicing your Bharatanatyam, I think there's a lot of core work that goes into it. So, if you've been doing it for 4 to 5 years consistently and then go through pregnancy, and if you're able to maintain that even for a part of your pregnancy until the balance issues come, I think post delivery, like I said, if you get your body into the pregnancy phase in a good form, the post delivery recovery will also be that much easier. And focusing on core strength really is extremely important. And this can happen even for cesarean section patients at an earlier stage in a phased manner. You can do pelvic floor strength, you can do the lower back, and then you can focus on the lower abdomen. And the other important thing I think one should remember is that consistency is king and not
Yeah.
intensity. So, show up every day, however little you can do.
Very
If you're
true.
not able to spare 1.5 hours for the whole practice session, doesn't matter. Do it for 15 minutes. Just be consistent about it. Show up on the most difficult days, on the days when you don't want to drag yourself out of bed,
Absolutely.
make that effort. and show up. I think consistency is king. And once that falls into place, you know, everything else will really fall into place. You will start feeling motivated. You'll feel good about the whole thing. And dancers, I think, are fortunate that they don't need to look at another training program, which is going to give them this holistic, combination of endurance, strength, flexibility, and balance. People do different things. People run for endurance. They
True.
lift weights for strength. They do yoga for flexibility. They do Pilates for balance. But the dancers have with them one routine which already gives all these four things.
Correct.
And if you can just stick to that and not look for new things, and it may be useful to form a peer group, of the s- dance teachers and the senior dancers who can put together a program and who can encourage women to go through their life phases with confidence. Not worry about getting pregnant, not postpone pregnancy because they think that they're going to miss out something on their career of dancing.
Correct.
It'll be useful for those things to be in place.
That's just absolutely spot on. I think it really helps to have a like-minded support group, because when you're going through it, for a lot of dancers, it is such a huge change. And
Mm.
one thing I did want to ask you, I will come into the mental aspect and the emotional aspect of it a little further on. But I wanted to ask you, what are some things that you think we should sort of be a little more careful about? Be it like maybe jumping or sitting quickly and getting up. I mean, are those some things that you think can take a little longer, because sometimes we feel agile post a delivery, not realizing that the body is still not healed. So,
Yeah.
is there something that you really think we should look out for or take our time with?
So I think the best way is to listen to your body.
Hmm.
Start gradually, build up slowly, have the routine set into place. If there's something that you feel is not suiting you, step back and restart it after some more time and see
Right.
how you go with it. So I think it's very important to take it gradual. So I think it's important to set out a training program for oneself which you will wholeheartedly enjoy. And I think it's important also to keep in mind that you also go through this whole post delivery period maybe once or twice in your life, and find a way to enjoy the holistic aspect of it also. Don't be extremely bogged down by the fact that you need to get back to things too
Ah,
early.
very true.
Yeah, and you may be missing on something. And I say this to all women, it's not just dancers. I
Absolutely.
think all career women, it is very possible for us to have everything. But it happens in phases. At one phase of life, you'll have something and you miss out on something else. And it doesn't matter because that's a holistic experience. And we should be willing to, write it into our life story that everything doesn't happen at once. It'll happen in phases, and each phase is there for you to enjoy. There's no point going 16 years postpartum and looking back and saying, I could have done this easily. Why did I
Right.
compromise on so many things through
Absolutely.
my anxiety? It is very possible. And that's why it's very important. I think planning is the key. I don't think one of the things that we don't do, and I'm talking of most career women, I'm sure there are some who are very good about it. We kind of take each day as it comes or each month as it comes. Very rarely do we set out, on a course of a life journey which is planned holistically in terms of, I have to, so again, I tell people that motherhood, pregnancy, they're not expectations. You have to get pregnant by choice. You should want to become a mother by choice. And if you're making that choice, plan for it, plan well. I think of this example of, when I wanted to do medicine and I had to get through to my MBBS, there was this huge entrance I had to prepare for. And I kind of started preparing for it when I was in my 10th class. And I know kids now prepare even when they are younger. And this is for a career from which you can resign, from which you can say, I'm not going to do this any further.
Absolutely.
We work so hard, we prepare so hard, we plan so much, we plan financially, we plan, academically, we plan in terms of time and everything. And just think of motherhood. Motherhood is a lifetime's responsibility. You can't resign from that job. There's no
True.
divorce from it. It's a lifelong commitment. And I think it's important for women to set aside that time and plan for it well so that they're not caught off guard for anything. Understand through other people's journeys. And it's not, see, this whole focus on this short journey of pregnancy and childbirth should change to what will happen post delivery. When you actually become a mother, new responsibilities come into your life. Your time may not be your own, and so you need to build your mental resilience and physical strength around those aspects. And so that planning is extremely important. When you plan, I think you're more relaxed. You're willing
True.
to take that one step back and say, I'm going to enjoy this phase. And then I know I'm going to get back into my phase of what I love to do professionally, whether it is dance, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being an engineer, whether it's being an author. You just need to have a plan in place for that, and that probably will keep you mentally more comfortable, and doesn't you don't feel rushed about the whole thing. And take it as it comes, and then don't leave it too long also.
True. True.
Sometimes inertia can set in, and you should be very mindful of the fact that you should not leave it too long.
Correct, correct. Because sometimes, we get so overwhelmed with the thought of what all we should have done or we could have done or we
Yeah.
we want to do. So we actually lose the moment and the clarity with
Yes.
which we need to think. I'm also thinking about feeding, right?
Hmm.
So often we are told when you're feeding, don't exercise. That affects, the either the quality of the milk or the child itself. I mean, is it something that prevents us from actually exercising and getting back?
No, not at all. See, you you have nutrition for every kind of activity, isn't it? So it's just about planning it right, getting the right nutritional advice, eating the right kind of food, and it's not going to impact your the quality of your breast milk. So sometimes these thoughts have also come into place because pregnancy, postpartum have existed through centuries. There have
Mm.
been some practices which have gone, traditionally, like there's a lot of calorie restriction that happens, isolation, certain kinds of foods are completely prevented, and there is a real thought process behind that. But if you're going to change from that into a different form of lifestyle, if you prefer to be active, you don't want to be isolated, which is how things were, postpartum women. That
True.
was because at that point of time, pregnancy, was viewed as something that a woman survived. You
Correct,
know,
exactly.
a woman survived pregnancy, and death was so common. Women just died during childbirth. And when they survived that pregnancy, they were treated in a fairly precious manner. They were not exposed to, they were asked to cover their ears, stay in a separate room. Isolation was to prevent infections. And they had this low salt diet because, there was no way of monitoring blood pressure. So, to prevent postpartum hypertension, certain foods which were, no, they call this heat producing and
Correct,
cold producing
correct,
foods, and there is a science to that. And they used all those techniques in the limited medical resources they had at that point of time
correct.
to optimize postpartum health, because truly it was viewed as surviving death. It was viewed as a rebirth when a
Rebirth,
woman survived
exactly.
pregnancy.
Yes,
Okay?
absolutely.
Now it's different. So if you choose to be active, you obviously need to, tailor your nutrition to that activity. So if you choose to be active, make sure that you're also consuming more protein, more calories, you're eating a post-workout meal. And that then definitely, see, finally, it's about having balanced nutrition and the right balance of all your carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in your body to the activity that you're doing, to breastfeeding. Breastfeeding itself increases your calorie consumption, And if you add, actually, that's one of the best times to get on with exercise because your body is burning more. uh,
Mm.
by itself. The basal metabolic rate is very, very high. And if you add a little more to it, then you'll see dramatic changes actually. And then it's not going to impact breastfeeding as long as you're eating a healthy diet.
Wonderful. I'm going to jump into something that I think a lot of times are not caught, which is postpartum depression or anxiety. And
Mm.
that sometimes, for say, a dancer or somebody else, might translate into body issues and other issues, which they may not even recognize is a condition that they need help with. So it progressively goes into something else where they are not able to identify what the cause is. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that is something I think
Yeah.
a lot of us go through, but actually don't recognize.
Yeah, no, and I think that's absolutely true. See, pregnancy is a life transforming experience, okay? And once you've delivered, see, I always say this to people. Whenever I cut the umbilical cord, the baby is delivered and I cut the umbilical cord, it is a moment of like, I just have to say, huh, because I'm cutting so many things from that woman. I'm not just separating the baby from her physically, from her body, but I'm kind of isolating her from this fantastic care that she got through delivery. This whole focus being her because family, doctors, even we as doctors, once delivery is over, we think our job is done. And we are like just leaving her alone in this world to find her way through it and to build new collaborations. She has to find a new doctor for her child. She has to
Correct.
build this relationship with her pediatrician. She has to build this relationship with her own body, with her insecurities about what has happened to her, with her own sexuality. And added to that are the hormone changes, the newer responsibilities where her time is not her own anymore. She's also surrounded by people who encourage her to think that her time is not hers anymore. It's completely at the service of her baby.
Absolutely.
It's all about the cycle of breastfeeding, looking after the baby. So, and even if she talks a little bit about self care, about, her own insecurities, she's guilted out. And I think that's something that, so the hormonal changes, the natural course of events where, you tend to have depression, that gets missed because of reasons like this, because people are too busy and they don't notice. And so for families, partners, caregivers, they need to be extremely mindful of the fact that as important as it is to nurture and care for the newborn, there's also a new mother who needs to be nurtured and cared for.
Absolutely.
And we need to give her that time to take care of herself. More importantly, we need to give her a safe space for her to come and vent her frustrations, her fears, and her insecurities. And trust me, there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. It's not, a happy ending, joyous forever. I have this little bundle of joy, and what more can I want? No, there's a lot more, and there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of frustration. Sometimes just lending an empathetic, non judgmental ear, being a good listener is the biggest role any family member can play. And so these are important things. There is going to be some amount of postpartum blues. But if there's a supportive environment around, and more importantly, if the woman is aware of the fact that this can happen,
True.
and these are the avenues of help for her. And one of the biggest avenues of help for her is some time to herself. Her ability to just get up and go away for 1 hour, pump the breast milk if required, go away, go for a walk, listen to something that she likes to listen to, maybe a podcast or read a book, whatever, just that 1 hour for herself in a day. I mean, that's the least I think that she can, and taking care of herself. And I think women need to advocate for themselves. They have to say
Absolutely.
that they need this. And obviously, that has to be addressed in a multidimensional manner. But I'm thinking if, for the dancers, probably right from the beginning, if they're aware of all these things and they can say, okay, hey, I need this time, this has to be factored once the baby comes. Let's see how we are going to do it. have this discussion with her family. And to the women, I tell them, you have to advocate for yourselves and ask for help.
Absolutely.
Seek help unabashedly. Invest in health unreservedly. It's far better than gold, saris, or mutual funds or stocks, I'm telling you. Because when you invest in this help in an unabashed and unreserved manner, the returns you're going to get is going to be tremendous. You'll get time for yourself, you'll get your ability to pursue what you love, and in the long run you're going to be successful. And I think that's what investing is all about, isn't it? It's to be in the long game, and not look for instant gratifications, because in the long game the gains are better. That's what I'm told anyway by my financial advisors.
Which is
So
very
I
true.
think, yeah, and I think investing and asking for help is the biggest thing a woman should learn to do. That's not the time to, you know mm,
And in fact, you were mentioning
compensate.
flexibility, balance. When you're pregnant, it changes.
Yeah.
But postpartum, it changes as well, right? Even your hormones change. So
Yeah.
those are things that we need to keep in mind.
Absolutely. We need to keep that in mind. We need to understand that some amount of postpartum depression, postpartum blues, feeling low is a given. No woman will escape that. And if she deals with it well in the first instance, the likelihood that it will progress to something more severe is very less. And in some women, unfortunately, there is a possibility that it will progress to something more severe. And it's the family around her which should be able to recognize that early, seek help early. Again, there should be no taboo about seeking help for mental health purposes. That's professional help for mental health purposes. I think still there's a stigma attached to it.
True,
Still, people don't want to say, I want to seek help. Still, families are willing to label women based on that small phase of their life,
true,
and I think that should all go away. There's enough help available. There's enough pharmacological help available, which is absolutely safe during breastfeeding. If you need it, you shouldn't hesitate to take it. I'm not saying everyone needs medications. There's enough counseling available, and you should be willing to take it up. For those people who are, savvy with internet and there's so many confidential services available online which you can check out, make sure that they are legit and use them. You really don't even need
correct.
to go somewhere and seek that kind of help. And it's important to get up and do that quickly. Be self-aware, or at least the family or the husband or the partner should be able to recognize it early, and to be able to say to her, hey, maybe you'll benefit from some form of professional help. We may not be the right people to support you through this, and you'll do well to seek that help. Don't worry about it. And I think that's very important. I think, the postpartum period, really, the mental health, both the things, both the physical beating and the mental
And the
health
mental.
issues can actually, write the course of a woman's life,
Very well
because
said.
it's such a long phase that you have to live. That's your entire life is postpartum, isn't it? After you
True.
have your baby.
That's true.
So I think it's very, very important to pay attention to that.
No, it's absolutely lovely. And I think as dancers, particularly, we need to plan not only for the pregnancy, but also remain active and, agile during the pregnancy.
Mhm.
Of course, always with the doctor's advice. But postpartum, it is also important to recognize that if there are feelings of, say, lack of a self-worth or body image issues, it takes time to heal, and we need to recognize those are very important hormonal as well as just physical changes, right? From balance to anything else. And as you absolutely spot on, correctly said that, a little bit of me time, I think, is very important. Just to spend some time, even if it's a little bit of exercise, listening to music, getting back to, practicing your jatis, vocally saying the sholkattu or the natvangam. There are so many things in which you need not physically actively get up and do something, but you can be in touch with your art. So that itself helps you heal quite a bit. However, if there is something that is something more than that, the help has to be asked. And I think, as you said, the health, both physical and mental, is in our hands. Sometimes, we don't realize that we need to plan for it. And I think this really gives us some clarity, right from, is it okay to exercise in pregnancy to breastfeeding, postpartum. I think it has been amazing getting your thoughts on it. So I'm sure we have many more questions that we would always like to reach out to and request your expertise. But I must say, thank you so much. It was such a joy. And it's so comfortable talking to a person who has seen, and you, as you correctly said, it's immediately after postpartum, the woman is sort of left alone. And even if she forms a bond with a pediatrician for the child, there is no bond for her to sort of handhold her like she had in pregnancy. So, with doctors, like you, who have been such a vocal voice for women health, I think there are just so many other changes that we can bring about. And you gave some very wonderful ideas of, support groups and things like that that we can definitely work on. So, I just must say thank you so much. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And yes, so anything from you? Yes.
Thank you, Mridula. I also really enjoyed this session. Postpartum is a passion of mine. Having dealt with pregnancy and childbirth, I realized that one of the most neglected areas is the postpartum
Absolutely.
period. And I think there are a lot of gaps to be filled there. And having conversations like this will help, definitely help, I think. And so I'm very happy that you gave me this opportunity to reach out to a group of people who, are so talented and can really continue to remain talented. And so, yeah, it was a great session. I was very happy to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha.